Hey guys, it's Katie, and I'm here today to do something that I've been talking about doing for quite some time, and that is talking about my ships and OTPs. Now, for those of you who know me fairly well, you know that I have a full-blown flotilla of ships. I can pretty much ship anything and everything, or even if I don't ship it, I can understand where people are coming from. I'm only going to talk about my OTPs, so they're in like their own separate category. And then I'm going to be talking about what's called honorable mentions, which are just kind of my middle of the road ships. They're like they're higher up than just random, I ship this thing because I think about them enough, but I don't ship them to like unhealthy levels, if you get my meaning. So we're going to start with the honorable mentions, and then we're going to work our way all the way up to my top OTP of OTPs. And I'm sure you guys know who that is at this point, but it doesn't matter. One other thing I'm going to say is that these are not limited to book ships. A lot of them are also from movies and TV shows as well. Here we go. Now, the first honorable mention that I'm going to talk about is Rachel and Bill from Eloise at Christmastime. For those of you who haven't seen that movie, you should definitely see that movie. It is a great Christmas movie, first of all, and second of all, it's adorable because Eloise is adorable. Eloise is a 6-year-old girl who lives at the plaza in New York, and the owner's daughter ends up coming home from university and being away for several years, and she's engaged, but she rekindles with her childhood best friend and her childhood sweetheart kind of a thing, and all kinds of crazy shenanigans happen. The reason I love Rachel and Bill is because I love the childhood sweethearts trope, first of all. Second of all, they're adorable in terms of just everything that they do and just how they are together. It's just beautiful, and you should just go watch it. The next honorable mention I'm going to talk about is Daenerys from Game of Thrones. Basically, it's just Jon Snow and Daenerys. They have a romantic relationship, but it's kind of one of the weirder ships in a way, but it's also very much canon because George R.R. Martin has basically said that this is going to be the thing. Next honorable mention I'm going to talk about is Adam and Tony from the movie Burnt. The movie Burnt follows Adam, who is a well-known chef who basically destroyed his career and about 500 other people's through his bad life decisions, such as using drugs, alcohol, and just destroying his entire life. So this movie is kind of all about his redemption. So he goes to London and he convinces his longtime friend, who was one of the only ones that doesn't hate him basically, to let him run his hotel's restaurant. And he kind of gets his comeback, and also he's working on trying to get his 3rd Michelin star. And there is this character who owns the hotel. His name is Tony. This very much falls into the like unrequited like love the best friend who's straight, one character's gay trope thing, but it's different. It's still very much that, but it's Adam seems to have at least some kind of reciprocal feelings in some way. At least it could be read that way. The next honorable mention I'm going to mention is Zimbits, also known as Jack Zimmerman and Eric Biddle from OMG Check Please. That's a webcomic which is now being turned into actual physical comics about a young boy named Eric Biddle who goes off to college, and he joins the men's hockey team. Great at baking and vlogging, and he's just in general adorable human being. Jack and Biddy just don't get along at first. It's kind of a hate to lovers, or enemies to friends to lovers kind of a situation, because they're just so different. Like, Biddy is generally a pretty outgoing, gentle, sweet, kind human being. Jack is very much shaped by his past and who his parents are, kind of a thing. So he just has a lot of extra pressure put on him, so it makes him come off as very cold and just generally angry and angsty. But it's just what Biddy ends up doing with this whole crew is kind of bringing them together in a lot of different ways that are unexpected. The next honorable mention that I'm going to talk about is Achilles from the Song of Achilles. So this is the relationship between Patroclus and Achilles. And for those of you who haven't read the Iliad, briefly, just 5-second summary of what the Iliad's about. It is all about the Trojan War, which was started because of a love triangle. Patroclus is a warrior and also a doctor, and Achilles is a demigod warrior who is mostly immortal. He has one sweet spot that could, if he was hit there, he would kill him. Patroclus and Achilles were childhood friends due to circumstances, and then they ultimately formed a very, very close bond and ultimately a romantic and sexual relationship. Relationship is beautiful and tragic and heartbreaking, and just I adore them. My little classics heart was a very, very happy camper while reading that book. The next honorable mention that I'm going to mention is Hodgins and Angela from Bones. Bones is basically a TV show about a forensic anthropologist and her team of other forensic scientists and their relationship with the FBI as they solve people's crimes by pretty much looking at their human remains to determine what happened to them and ultimately catch their killer. Now, it's a lot more than just a crime show. The relationships in that show are central. They are key and important to absolutely everything between Jack Hodgins and Angela Montenegro. They're not the main characters, they're not the protagonists of the show, but they are no less important regardless. Angela's a forensic artist, and Hodgins has 3 degrees in different forensic scientists. Basically, he's the bug, slime, and plant guy. And ultimately, they form an adorable, nerdy relationship, and I just adore them because Angela is very, very, very good with her social skills. Jack is a little bit more on the crazy side in terms of, he's very much a conspiracy theorist. The government is out to get me. They're hiding all kinds of things. He's also got a lot of anger issues. And he's also incredibly, incredibly wealthy. He literally owns, the world, basically. And just their relationship is so beautiful and so good, and I love them with my whole being. Finally, the last relationship that I think warrants mention because I think about them and talk about them enough that I feel like I'm gonna mention them anyway, is that between Cedric and Carson from the Realm of the Elderlings. They are canon, okay? They are canon. Anyway, Cedric is from Bingtown, and he's a secretary to a wealthy trader who at first was his lover, and his name is Hest. But that was a very toxic relationship, but whatever. But when Cedric goes on this journey with Hest's wife, he meets a rugged journeyman kind of a guy named Carson, and they form a friendship and then ultimately form a very healthy romantic relationship, or a healthier romantic relationship than Cedric was in before. And just it's lovely to watch blossom and just see how much they care for each other, and I really do love them. They're probably my second ship in RotE, my OTP of OTPs. And the first one I'm going to talk about, all the 1 stars, and I'm going to start by talking about Hickstrid, also known as Hiccup and Astrid from the How to Train Your Dragons movies. If you haven't seen those movies, I'd highly, highly recommend going to watch them. They're really cute and really fun, and I adored them. Basically, if you don't know what they're about, they follow a young boy named Hiccup, who is a Viking. What the Vikings do and are known for at that point in time is killing dragons because of a lot of reasons. And Hiccup is just not about that life. He's kind of more of a softer, quieter soul, much to his father's dismay. But he does end up wounding a rare dragon called a Night Fury. But as we see, Hiccup ultimately ends up befriending this dragon named Toothless, who is the purest of all pure things. And they just have a really, really beautiful friendship. But in the process, Hiccup also has to deal with one of his, I guess you could call her rivals, named Astrid. Astrid is very much a female warrior. She is very just no nonsense and just very gung-ho. Her and Hiccup kind of have this rivalry, but then they ultimately form a deeper bond and a relationship. And it's just really cute watching it unfold. They have a very healthy relationship and they work well together. They balance each other out in terms of their crazy lives, kind of a thing. Then the next one I'm going to talk about is Kurt and Blaine from Glee. And for those of you who don't know what Glee is about, it is basically a teen comedy all about crazy high school shenanigans, and a lot of different tackles like stereotypes and different relationships and different issues that could come up during that crazy period of time. And Kurt, he is one of the main characters. He is the only out gay kid at his high school at the time, and he's in a public high school, and he gets bullied and ridiculed a whole ton. And then in the second season, he actually ends up transferring to a private high school, for a private all-boys high school for a period of time. It's called Dalton Academy. And he meets another openly gay character, the only one he's ever encountered before, named Blaine. And Kurt and Blaine ultimately end up forming this friendship, which ultimately ends up blossoming to love. And just, I really loved watching their relationship become explored, and I really loved getting to see what the writers did with them. I think they were one of the first openly gay couples on TV, or at least one of the first incredibly popular ones that kind of just started putting it out there, because that show was so incredibly popular for a few years. And I know that it was one of my first experiences with something like that, and it just captured my heart pretty much immediately. Next, we're going to be talking about Maria and the Captain from The Sound of Music. For those of you who don't know, this is probably my favorite movie of all time. I can literally watch it over and over and over again and never be bored, and still like just be happy inside. It's just my go-to movie for everything. And basically, for those of you who don't know what this is about, they have 7 children with their father. Their mother passed away, and they're in need of a governess. And of course, they write to the convent in town, and they send this wily young novitiate who does not like to follow any rules or of any kind for any reason. And she goes to this family and she tries to kind of figure out their lives and once again break all kinds of rules, and ultimately starts to win all of them over and worms their way into their heart. It's full of beautiful music and seriously just Julie Andrews and Christopher Plummer. Like, that's really all you need to know. They're one of the most beautiful on-screen couples ever. Relationship, but like seriously just the Lendler scene. Okay, just go. Now, moving on, segueing from that, we're going to my 2-star ships. The first 2-star ship I'm going to talk about is Victory from Yuri on Ice, and basically that is Victor and Yuri. And basically what Yuri on Ice is about is it's a sports anime, but it can also kind of be seen as like slice of life, kind of contemporary anime as well. And it's about Yuri, who is a 24-year-old ice skater from Japan, who is just not having a good time of his life. He's very kind of burnt out, washed up, and he's very, very, very anxious, and he's basically on the borderline of retiring from skating. And he has a really, really big admiration for another skater who's from Russia, and his name is Victor. Victor is the opposite of Yuri. His entire career is just blooming. He is the best skater that there is. Everyone wants to be like him. Everyone loves him. And all of a sudden, he's just like, I'm bored with my life. I'm retiring, or like I'm taking a bit of time off, whatever. And one day he just sees a video of Yuri doing one of his routines, just kind of for fun, off the cuff. And Victor just decides to, on a whim, go to Japan and shows up on Yuri's doorstep and is like, hey, I'm gonna coach you now. But the thing about that is they are not very far off in age, so it's not, you know, drastically awful and uncomfortable like a lot of people would assume it would be. It's done in a very poignant and respectful way, and it's really, really cute. But basically, Victor and Yuri form this deep friendship, and then ultimately it turns into love. Next OTP that I'm going to talk about in the 2-star category is Booth and Brennan from Bones. And I told you a little bit about Bones earlier when I was talking about Hodgins and Angela, so I won't repeat all of that. But basically, Booth and Brennan are the epitome of opposites attract and kind of very much part of the enemies to lovers relationship, or so it seems on first blush. But Brennan is very much the cold and unfeeling, rational being, just hyper, brain everything. Everything can be explained by science and logic and rationale. Booth, on the other hand, is very much the opposite. Everything about him is feelings, heart, just gut feelings, and science is like, whatever, I don't understand it, it doesn't matter, kind of a thing. And basically, it's kind of, their relationship is at the center of the show. Brennan is this hyper-analytical forensic anthropologist who is the top forensic anthropologist in her field. And Booth is a FBI agent, but he is also a war veteran. He fought in Afghanistan, and he has a lot of baggage from that. And what gets explored is just, they get paired up together as partners, and it's just really, really fun. Brennan is a very, very powerful female character. And then Booth is just, he's very fun, he's very good, he's just generally a very accepting and kind-hearted person. And just their relationship was just pretty much everything to me for years. And they will always, 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 always have a special place in my heart. The OTP that I'm going to discuss is one that I have been alluding to for weeks at this point. Remember in several videos how I've always talked about that one Harry Potter ship that I have that is like the rarest of rare pairs, and that I promised I would tell you about it at some point or another? Yeah, well, that's today. I'm going to tell you about who my main Harry Potter ship is. Ron and Hermione are definitely up there. They just haven't really made this list because I don't know why, but this ship definitely makes this list for me. They just struck a very powerful chord in me, and that is Harry and Cedric, also known as Hedrick, or as I like to call them, the Chosen Spare. The Chosen Spare. Yes, they are my main Harry Potter ship. And I know a lot of you guys are probably going like, what? Why? They like don't really interact with each other, and Harry spends like half of Goblet of Fire like thinking he's annoying and like is just annoyed with him for stealing Cho from him. I'm like, friend, no. Think about it. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my origin story as to why I even shipped them in the first place. So one day I was just on the internet surfing around. My friend, one of my Tumblr friends, she just reblogged this photo set of them interacting. It was, as you know in the movie, it was when Harry was telling Cedric about the dragons. But instead of that dialogue being on the photo set, it was basically Harry asking Cedric to go to the Yule Ball with him. And I read it and watched the GIF set reactions, GIF, I don't care. I call it GIF. I don't fight me. And watch the facial reactions of it and just the overall reactions. And I was just like, oh my God. I lost my mind. It was just like instantaneous. And as I did my reread last year, I was just like, whoa, there actually is a ton of textual evidence to kind of like support this if you're looking carefully. And I mean, as I said, you guys might still be asking why. And I was talking to Shelby from Read and Find Out, and because she asked me the same question, why Harry Cedric? And I'm just like, friend. So I'm just going to read my reply to her to you because it sort of encompasses my feelings a little bit. And this is what I said. I'm terrible at answering these questions, but I'll try because I am terrible at answering why this ship, because yeah, I'm just bad at that. But here's what I said. I said pining angst, which is literally like my favorite thing in the entire world. Mutual pining, but like just also pining angst. Like, please give me. And I said, but actually pining angst. Book 4 is full of it, and I live for that trope. What was I just saying? Yeah. I said they are opposites in a lot of ways, but have similar expectations on them, and that bond is just incredible. They're there for each other. The language JK uses whenever Harry sees Cedric is just lovely, and I see it as kind of a questioning period for him, or a realization period in a way. Year 4 was different for so many reasons. And then a lot of Harry's actions in the later books are shaped by what he saw in the graveyard, and he thinks about Cedric a lot, even in the wild trip that is the cursed child. Also, the movie portrays that relationship in such a way that just makes it even more extra. That is basically my rationale for that ship. That Harry and Cedric would have been a really great relationship because Cedric would have given Harry all of the love that he deserved and all of the love that he should have been having his entire life. And Harry would have helped Cedric because he had an overbearing father, so he had a lot of expectations put on his shoulders. Harry had a lot of expectations put on his shoulders because of his defeat of Voldemort and constantly being the, like, chosen one, even though he didn't necessarily want to be. So they would have been able to really help each other out in that respect. They both had a deep love of Quidditch. Also, let's talk about the hallway scene where Harry's just kind of wandering around and brooding, and then Cedric runs up to him and is like, "Hey, Harry, how's it going?" And he's just like, spectacular. And I'm mostly talking about the movie scene, okay? But it also happens in the book. He's like, "So you should take your egg and go to the bath. You should go to the prefect's bathroom and just, you know, sit in the warm water and mull things over." And I'm just like, this is literally the gayest scene in the history of ever. Just the idea of them going to the Yule Ball together just has me dying. Okay, said the graveyard scene literally dictated kind of a lot of what Harry's actions were in the later books. Like, for instance, in Order of the Phoenix, when he's with Cho, he just doesn't want to talk about Cedric because it hurts him, because he saw it happen, and he just feels like she doesn't understand because of what he witnessed and experienced. He didn't want to talk about that. He just wanted to, like, try and move on with his life and try and figure out and, like, survive kind of thing. But then also, like, Dudley is teasing him at the beginning, and he's like, "Oh, Cedric, don't kill Cedric. Who's Cedric? Your boyfriend?" It's like, you know, yeah. And because Harry was like, "No, he's not." I'm like, buddy. Because the way that she wrote it, I'm just like, friend. As I said, Cedric's death really, really, really bothered Harry. He constantly thinks about him through the last 4 books. And as I said, even in The Cursed Child, which is like the biggest drug trip ever. It's fun, but it's wild. But like, the fact that JK made him a Death Eater in another timeline, like, even Harry was like, oh no, 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 no. So I mean, just thinking about that relationship and all of the things that it could have been or possibly was. Like, they went through a Tri-Wizard tournament together. They knew what the stakes were. They were experiencing things that no one else was experiencing, and it was just very enlightening. I don't know. I adore them. But hopefully I conveyed enough interesting information to you guys about Harry Cedric that you can kind of understand where I'm coming from. A couple of people in my real life, they like to make fun of me for it because they're just like, I don't understand it, and they don't accept my reasoning either. Sit in chosen spare hell forever. It's fine. So this next ship that I'm going to talk to you guys about, I actually didn't have when I was originally filming the video, but I needed to include it because they're super high up in the OTP ladder already, that they just need to be part of this. And that is Merlin and Arthur from BBC Merlin. I adore them. I know I've said that a lot throughout this entire video, but I actually really do adore them. They're kind of soulmates in a way because, and it's actually referred to in the show all the time, that they're two sides of the same coin. So it's like their destinies are so intertwined that you can't have one without the other. And it's just, their relationship is so sassy and snarky and beautiful, and I just live and breathe for their relationship. They're probably going to end up either being a 2 or a 3-star ship, I think, so that's kind of where I'm putting them in this video. Their relationship is super sassy, snarky, like, I don't even know how to describe it. I love them with my entire being. So basically their relationship in the show, I mean, they're of course not canon because 95% of my ships are not canon. But Merlin, if you guys are familiar with the legend of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, etc., this is a kind of retelling again of that legend. In this, Merlin comes to Camelot and he becomes Arthur's servant. And Arthur is still, he's still in his princeling days. His father is still alive and he's a piece of garbage. He just constantly keeps saving Arthur's life over and over and over again. And ultimately they form this deep friendship, and the subtext in the show is so ridiculous. So yeah, Merlin and Arthur are a good time. OTP of OTPs, and that basically means the 3 stars. And I struggled because all of these 3 are very important. 2 of them are pretty much tied, and then 1 is just reign superior. And I think you guys know who it is, but I'm going to talk about them anyway. It's talk about is Stony from the MCU, or just the Marvel Universe in general. And Stony, if you haven't figured it out, is between Steve Rogers and Tony Stark, aka Iron Man and Captain America. This is probably a couple I could probably explain why I love them in a fairly easy way. Once again, they're the opposites attract kind of a thing. Steve is very much the old souls. Tony is very much 100% all about that technology and new age stuff. Tony has a lot of daddy issues. So does Steve. They complement each other. They love each other. Steve is just a very loving, very, very open person. Tony is very closed off and reserved. He uses humor and just all kinds of stuff to hide behind. Tony's extremely smart. So is Steve, but they're smart in different ways. I don't know, they just click for me. They would just be perfect in so many ways. But also, Tony Stark is my literal bro. I mean, we have the same birthday, except for he's several years older than me. And Tony Stark means so much to me, and I really just think that Steve would be the perfect match for him. And then we have my number 2 spot, which goes to Sherlock and John from the Sherlock Holmes universe in pretty much any form. But I mean, everyone talks about the BBC with Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman, and let's be honest, that is the best Sherlock Holmes adaptation in the modern era, at least in terms of like movie, TV show adaptations. People are like, oh, I'm so tired of hearing about homoerotic themes in Sherlock Holmes. But the thing is it's there. It's blatantly in the books. If you've read the books, it's there. And it's something that has been discussed amongst scholars and all kinds of people for decades. A lot of people ask me, why John Locke? And they're just, you put them in any setting and they are John and Sherlock, and they just work. I have seen so many incredible works by people. I read a lot of AUs, and particularly historical AUs, and just they're so good. I can't even begin to tell you about my love for these boys. Chemistry and in the books and just in any form, it's just always there. It's just beautiful, and I just said I love that it has stood the test of time from the very, very beginning of it all. And guys, we are at my OTP of all OTPs, and if you made it through this video, thanks for sitting and listening to my rambles for a little bit. From The Realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb. Is anyone surprised? I haven't watched all of my 500 videos about The Realm of the Elderlings and me talking a little bit about their relationship and just the theme of love. Go do that. About Fitz and the Fool is not only are they childhood best friends, but they are literally everything that you can be in a relationship besides sexual. And I know a lot of people fixate on sexual relationships and think that they are the ultimate. But the thing that's great about Fitz and the Fool is, in a large way, they are above and beyond. Their relationship transcends sex. And just trying to put a label on them as a couple is impossible. I'm going to repeat that. Trying to put a label on their relationship is impossible. It's not romantic. It's more than friendship. It's more than romantic. It's more than soulmate. Like, it is more than everything, which is why the beauty of the quote, "I put no limits on my love," is so perfect. No limits. Fitz loves the Fool with his entire being, but he is afraid to acknowledge that love. And it is seen through so many symbolic things that happen in the books. Whether it's their unusual skill link bond thing, which no one understands. I don't even understand, so that's why I'm taking this interpretation. And it is seen also through just Fitz's constant rejection and just not wanting to explore that relationship further. He is terrified because with every other relationship that he ever has, Fitz has ever had, it's always been definable. He was Molly's husband, his apprentice, and Burrick's son figure thing, Verity's nephew. I mean, he literally has a label for every single relationship that he has ever had or been in or whatever, except for the Fool's. The very, very end of everything, he turns to the Fool and he asks him, "What were we?" And the Fool starts to give all these labels, like, we were friends, and catalyst and white prophet, etc. And Fitz just turns to him and is like, that's not what I meant. And the fool is just kind of just like shrugs, and he's just like, no limits. And Fitz, in the state that he's in at that point, just doesn't know what to make of that still. But then when we have the ending scene with those two, when they're in that scene where they're talking about finally go into the Stone Wolf together, like Fitz doesn't want to ask the fool to go with him. The fool doesn't think that Fitz loves him enough, kind of thing, all due to B, but we're not talking about B here. We're talking about Fitz and the fool. Ultimately, she convinces him to go. It doesn't take much convincing because he's always wanted to go. And Fitz just welcomes him with open arms for a change and embraces everything that he has been restricting himself from having for all of those years. Like he's always talked about how he is not worthy of anyone's love. Like no one would care if he was gone. He just doesn't feel like he's a lovable person. He doesn't allow himself to have that and to feel that, probably due to all of those years of trauma and being used and manipulated and whatever in every which way possible. He knows that he can be everything he wants to be with the fool, because the fool sees him as more than a label. He doesn't see him as the witted bastard. He doesn't see him as, you know, the king that once was. He does not put limits on their relationship and the love that he has for Fitz. And honestly, that is what makes them my everything. You cannot define what they are to each other, because they are everything to each other. They are everything and beyond. And it's completely, utterly beautiful and heartbreaking, and just, I can't even begin to express all of my 500 thoughts about them and their relationship thing. Anyway, those are all of my ships and OTPs that I've got as of now. And I'll be curious to see if anybody else out there has similar ships and or feelings as me. And if you do, definitely come talk to me about them, because seriously, the more the merrier. And also, if you have a Tumblr, seriously let me know, because then we can follow each other and you can experience all of my obsessions via that social media site. You guys know the drill at this point. Like if you think I did a good job, subscribe if you want to see more content from me in the future, and click the little bell to make sure you get notified. And comment, as I said, let me know down below who some of your ships and OTPs are. On social media, I've got a Twitter and a Goodreads that are, as always, linked below. And then I've got other social media sites on requests. And I will come back with another video for you guys again very soon. Okay, bye.